Like I could think of a flying elephant in the sky, but that's not really applicable to this world.
But at what point does it? Because at some point you can make a flying elephant.
Make the ground shake.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Students and Skeptics podcast. Today we're going to be discussing the primordial question of existence, which is, why is there something rather than nothing? I am Qasim. I'm joined today with
Daniel, Ollie,
I'm Benjy.
Yeah, we have a special guest appearance today. Yeah, so we each took our turns to sort of research different philosophers, and we're going to provide their viewpoints today. I will be focusing on Parmenides.
I guess I'm going to be focusing a little bit on Heidegger, but it's not really very good, I don't think.
Next then.
yours.
Oh yeah, I got Liebniz. He's a mathematician, but also a philosopher. It's Renaissance type timing.
I've done a bit on Hume, but I'm probably just going to be arguing with everyone else because I haven't got my own stuff up.
Right. Okay, anyone want to go first?
Yeah,
You
I'll go
first.
I'll go
Go on then,
first.
Daniel, go first.
Alright,
Because-
go on, Daniel.
Because I don't think Heidegger really says much. He sort of just says that is the question that we need to be asking, and that's pretty much it.
What question's that?
How could something come from nothing, and how is there a nothing?
So he thinks that the question of why is there something rather than nothing is something that we need to just think about all the time, pretty much.
He also sort of thinks that nothing is still kind of a thing, but the thing is the absence of anything.
That's
Do you know what I mean?
interesting.
And
Parmenides would disagree.
He
I think,
he also says he also says that we sort of get glimpses into the nothing when in times of really deep anxiety.
Why is that?
Because I think what he means is if you're really nihilistic and you if you think, oh, I've got nothing to live for, in your soul you don't, you're glimpsing into the nothing there.
What does that have to do? I don't see
don't
the
get
relation
that,
between anxiety and
He doesn't make it very
thinking
clear.
about nothingness.
Yeah, that's just my interpretation.
Does he
of what
think?
was
Oh,
saying.
is he saying that any anxiety that we feel, the root cause of it is because of this question of nothingness, which is so hard for us to understand?
Yeah.
I thought he was when I looked a bit of what's his name, Heidegger. It's his main thing was why is there being? But the question he wants us to ask is, why is there being with a capital B rather than being with a lowercase b? And so not being with a lowercase b would be why is there this chair here, for example, or why does this car exist? But then why does anything exist at all? Is the main question he wants us to ponder. So why does the whole the encapsulating universe, where did that come from and why does that exist? And I think he called it the fundamental question of metaphysical philosophy, something like that. So it doesn't really answer the question for me.
Could you just develop the distinction between a capital B and lowercase
Yeah,
b?
so
Yeah.
if you think about if you ask the question, why does this chair exist, or why does Daniel's steering wheel exist, you can answer it with someone created it, they mined up all the iron for the Hyundai i20 logo, and all the electronics they found in the ground and naturally built it and made a wheel, and you can explain why that
I
exists.
made
with,
a really good car.
yeah, a cause and effect relation. It's not a great car, to be honest. It's
Shitbox.
it's massive shit maybe already, but you can explain why that wheel exists, but the explanation involves matter already existing, and you can't explain why does that matter exist in the first place, why does anything exist in the first place. What he's really asking is, why does existence exist, I think.
Is it the kind of the idea that you can have two explanations for things? It's the mechanical explanation for it, or a kind of logical, this needs to exist. So you could say there has to be something because Big Bang, which led to X, and the chain of events, that's your kind of mechanical, this is what has happened. And then your other explanation that kind of runs in parallel is, well, logically it needs to exist for whatever reason.
It's necessary.
Yeah,
I see that.
exactly.
That's what Liebniz was on about a bit.
So ultimately, what would you say is Heidegger's answer to the question then? Why is there something rather than nothing?
I don't think he has an answer. I think he just sort of reinstates it and says, oh yeah, nothing is the absence of a thing, and it was sort of both not an event and an event at the same time.
Thanks, understand it.
So is he saying that nothingness kind of has to be encased in something? Like when you imagine
Yeah.
nothing, you're still imagining nothing within something.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I don't really understand the theory very well. I saw it briefly this morning. It's like set theory, where you can have different sets of things, or you can have a set of nothing. It's still a set.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's not an absolute nothing. It's just a case where everything is false. So I think is that kind of the
Yeah.
direction he's going in.
I feel
I
like
think
he
so,
doesn't
yeah.
answer the question
That-
very well.
He doesn't really answer it very well. I don't really like Heidegger.
I think that
It's
ties
silly
quite
man.
nicely into Parmenides actually.
Go on then.
Elaborate.
So essentially, Parmenides would say that in the answer to the question, why is there something rather than nothing? Nothing actually doesn't exist, and it's impossible for it to exist. True nothingness can't exist because when we think of nothing, we think of it in relation to something else. So, for example, I could have a table with an orange on it, and then if I remove the orange, I could say, oh, there's nothing on this table. But that nothing is only in relation to the table and the orange. Like, it's not true nothingness by itself. So he says it's impossible to think of nothingness as a concept, so therefore it doesn't actually exist.
So the idea of nothing is logically impossible.
Yeah.
Can you say the same thing about being though? You could contrast being to nothingness and say you can't say you have being unless you have nothingness. Or like why does this car, for example, like contrast that to like the fact that we know it's here is because it could possibly not be here. So you could ground being in the fact that it's like a comparison.
Well,
to
he would
nothing.
say that like there's no really true being in this material world either, because he's sort
What's so funny, Basim?
He's laughing at me.
I'm not.
Can you stop touching me? So he sort of inspired Plato in the sense that Plato would say nothing around us is really real. So therefore, nothing around us in the material sense can have true being. So yeah, I guess he would agree with you, Ben.
Does he think that like existence is contingent, or
Yeah, so how would you answer the question, why is there something then? If he thinks nothing's impossible to exist, like why is there something then? You say nothing never ever existed.
He thinks the question doesn't make sense at all because nothingness as a concept is logically incoherent.
What, so something has always existed?
Existence has always existed.
so existence is necessary?
So you can
Yes.
say the universe
Yeah.
has a necessary existence.
No, he doesn't apply it to the universe. He just thinks
Yeah, I
that
think-
existence.
I think universe and existence is like somewhat separate. To be fair.
He just thinks that existence and being are like the truly necessary sort of forms. But he doesn't really apply that to the universe because the universe is not necessary because it's constantly changing and it's finite, so it can't have necessary being.
So then what does he say exists then?
Only existence.
Is that
The only thing that truly exists
So does this
is
chair exist, according to Parmenides?
it doesn't have true existence. It exists in like a material sense, yes, but it's not real basically. It's just an appearance.
with existence being finite, like the universe being finite? What would be outside of that then?
What do you mean?
Because like surely there's gonna be like if you go outside of that finite space.
What's outside of the universe?
Yeah. Is there nothing outside the universe?
Okay, yeah. I mean, I wasn't saying the universe is finite. I was just saying that the true being can't be finite.
So then,
But in answer to your question, Parmenides would say that that's not true nothingness because we're still using the universe as a relation to create that definition of nothingness. So it's not true nothingness.
hang on, but when you say true being, like, does he think true being has existed forever then?
Yeah.
And then, so what is the universe in relation to true being? Like, let's say.
He doesn't apply it to the universe. That's the thing. Like,
So then, what is anything? Like,
well, yeah, no, that's his whole thing.
What am
Like
I
the
living in
universe
then?
and everything you're living in is fake.
but
It's
there
like-
is a reality.
You know, like the
underlying.
allegory of the cave. It's
No,
like
so-
we're living in the world of shadows.
So then, I am experiencing the true being in a way. It's just warped by my senses. Is that what he's saying? Like, I just have like when I see like a car moving, he says you can't have movement because that thing's changing. when I see a car moving, like I'm being deceived
No,
by
you,
appearance.
you can't ever experience true being in this world because it doesn't exist in
But
this
do I have
world.
like a 20% experience? Like, is my experience in the world grounded in true being, or is it just completely separate? Like, the reason that I have an experience is that because underlying there's a true being, and then I'm like kind of warped by my like senses and my rationality or something, and that causes me to like see this illusion.
I'm not
Or
sh-
is it like, is that my experience completely separate from the true being?
I'm not sure what he would say to that, but I guess it would be logical to guess that any experience we have is a sort of like interpretation of that
Yeah,
true
like a
being.
reflection.
Like the true being is the grounding for what we experience, but our reality is a fake reality.
That reminds me of Kant. Like Kant in it's like 1700s, 1800s. He was like one of the early like idealists, and he basically said this was around the time when people stopped believing in God, and so he thought there's a numinous world, which is like what everyone's interpretation is grounded on, but everyone experiences the world differently in like their own kind of way, because everyone's senses are different. Like the classic example is like me saying like the tree is green. Like you might see a different green to me. Like everyone brings that one up, and it's like our senses could give us a different appearance of reality, and so everyone has massively different perspective, but it's grounded in like a numinous. I feel like that's kind of what Parmenides is getting at.
Wait, I just think like I feel like that thing with the everyone has a different perception of colours. I just think it's not useful to think about it that way, and also it's just like scientifically unlikely as well,
Why?
because the whole like our whole perception of colours is like different wavelengths that can be measured, and why do we have like wildly different reactions to those wavelengths when like
I don't understand why
Is
we
that not
wouldn't.
just an example of how everyone's
Yeah,
perception
exactly.
is different? Like that
I'm not saying that has to
it's
be
also
true.
it's also that like every situation you bring yourself to is based on your own perceptions, like of what you expect from people, of what you expect to happen. That's all warped by your own experiences. So it doesn't necessarily mean that like everyone sees green. To you, it could actually be what I would call red.
Yeah.
It's more like, you know, in a nuanced sense of like.
We probably don't see the exact same shade of green, for example, because our eyes are biologically different, and we probably don't interpret that in the same way because we're not the exact same person. And so, like, when we see green, like it's not the same thing. And that's just if you generalize that for reality, like when you see like a tree or like cars moving around, or like you go and you talk to your family, like you have a certain perception of reality, and that's going to be totally different from someone else's perception of reality.
I don't think it would though, because I mean we're all kind of brought up in the same society where like, for example, green, like it signifies life or growth or whatever. I feel like everyone sort of has that perception of green.
So what? Yeah. So I think that's a good. The good counter to that would be to say the fact that people can communicate coherently means there must be some kind of shared understanding. So like the fact that I can say to you like, there's a tree out there. Like, there's kind of a shared understanding. Like we both agree there's a tree out there. And I think Kant would say, and maybe Parmenides would say, that's because you've got the grounding of the true being behind that, and so you're both like reflecting the same deeper reality, like the foundational true being, for example, or I forgot the word, like noumenal world or something. This is the objective reality, and we're interacting that in a different way. But the reason we have similarities and we can communicate is because of that. So I can kind of see like the argument there, but I'm not sure if I'm convinced about like an objective reality. I feel like you've got to have a God to ground that.
So you think, what do you mean by objective reality?
Like, I'm not convinced, like, for example, the true being. Like, let's say we've got the true being, that's the underlying, and then everyone interprets it in a different way.
Yeah.
Or you've got true, like, the world, and that's the underlying, and everyone interprets it in a different way. I'm not convinced you can have a true world unless you have a God to ground that in. Because, well, I think Nietzsche was good on this, and he was basically like, the reason that we can perceive things exist is because we're people, and the fact that we can say, like, the world, like, a mind-independent world is like, it's not necessarily true. Like it's an assumption that we have. Yeah. So unless you can ground this mind-independent world in something objective, like God, I mean, you could just say the world is objective, and I can see that argument. But
Oh, is this like
That's what
similar
I was gonna
to similar to the morality argument?
kind of not.
Are you saying essentially that is it not that we're needing someone to observe the objective reality, and that God is filling in that space?
Yeah.
But do you not think that's potentially just the human need to relate our own situations to something? So why does existence need to be observed? Or I'd say observed by a God, but why does it have to be grounded in a God? Is that because our lives are grounded in our perceptions.
I think the reason Nietzsche said that, maybe I would agree with that, is like at the time everyone stopped believing in God, and then once you lose God, I think you lose all objectivity in a way. That's what he was trying to say. And then the scientists would say, no, you don't. Like I can agree with this thing I'm casting.
Didn't you really say that's because all of our like society and morals are based on an objective God? So instead of us just being like right, we just have to rework our grounding basically.
Well, I don't think Nietzsche was just about morals though. Like I think he was about reality as well. He's like an early idealist kind of. Like I don't think he was that stupid to say, look, if you don't believe in God, you kind of lose objectivity as a thing. And so again, the critique to that would be, look, we all have this shared experience of the world, so there's probably something similar underlying. But then I think what Kant would say, I don't know if Nietzsche said as well, everyone's got similar structures in their mind, which means we would interpret the things in a similar way, but there is no like underlying reality. It's just our minds are structured in a specific way. So like things like,
why is that then?
well, he thinks things like geometry are like structures of the mind that are necessary, and like everyone has a shared experience of like a square has 4 sides and a triangle has 3 sides, but it's not like there is like a world where there's a triangle out there that has 3 sides and we like observe that with our senses, and then we decide that triangle has 3 sides. More like it's a structure of the mind rather than of reality, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah.
I don't think that's that stupid.
No.
But then again, like I can see the argument for grounding reality without a God, because like that's what scientists do. Like if we have the same, like for example, a priori truths, like something like a triangle has 3 sides, I guess, but I mean it's not really grounding reality again. But like we all agree on things that we observe quite a lot. Like a lot of us would agree, if I boil water in front of you and like put a thermometer into it, a lot of us agree, look, we see it's boiling at 100 degrees Celsius, and that's when the water boils. So we have this shared experience, so there's probably something objective going on. So it kind of depends what you think.
Yeah, I think the main like criticism of Parmenides is like his sort of idea of what it takes to have something that has being. So like I could think of something, and then he thinks that just by thinking of it, I give it some form of being. But I think most people would agree that this form of being that I give it by the fact that this thought exists, it's not really practical to our world, because it's sort of only existing or being in my mind, and we don't really go through our lives using that kind of being. Like, so that, I think that's like the main objection people have to people like Parmenides and Plato. It's just not applicable to our lives with like the world of forms and stuff, because it's just not concerned with our reality, because they just disregard our reality. Yeah.
Well, so what you say, like if you think something exists.
Yeah, if you can truly think of something, then it truly exists.
But is that surely not true? That's surely got to be true to a degree, because that, and it depends what you mean by exist, but let's say you come up with some kind of idea, you can draw that, you can create that to a certain degree. Is that not bringing it into existence, even just in a concept and discussing it, writing it?
Yeah, no, I mean, he has a point, of course. Like, I could think of anything, and then the fact that I think of that thing automatically gives it existence, because the thought exists. But that's still not really applicable. Like, I could think of a flying elephant in the sky, but that's not really applicable to this world.
But at what point does it? Because at some point you can make a flying elephant. Like I say, you can go from drawing it to actually then genetically making one, I'm sure. Like, even if something's an abstract point that you've made up in your head, at some point, could you not bring it into existence because it's theoretical?
Well, I mean, I could think of something that could never exist in this world that like breaks the laws of physics.
Okay.
Can you?
Yeah.
Or maybe breaks the laws. Like you can't think of something illogical though.
I've got a metal ball that's 1 ton, but like I can push it with my pinky finger.
No, you'd be like that strong
without
without
gravity.
Huh? So if I
No,
thought,
it
if I
doesn't
thought
obey.
Carson just completely disappears right now.
Yeah, okay. I've got a metal ball, and when you touch it, you just disappear.
I mean,
I can think of that, but
Yeah, but the concept,
the concept
that
exists, but
Exactly.
it's not helpful to think about it because it can never exist in our reality.
okay.
I mean, it's
I can see that. Yeah.
could exist.
Yeah. Like,
What? How could it exist?
I mean, it's not logically
Blows you up.
inconceivable just because it's never happened. Like,
Yeah, no,
it's
I agree.
Technically, the fact that you can imagine that means it technically could
it
No, it
logically
couldn't.
can happen.
possibly exist.
It's inconsistent with our laws of physics.
Yeah, but
though.
laws of physics aren't. They're human made.
But
It's inconsistent with your understanding of laws of physics as well. Like, I feel like I'm sure there's a way you could
We don't know
completely
all of
destroy
physics.
yourself instantly.
Yeah, but also, we don't know like all of physics. Like,
why
think
not?
about
Because
all the
energy
different-
can't be created.
Okay,
As
remove all of your energy instantly.
well, that's not my premise. I want my energy
you
to
want
be
your energy
destroyed.
to-
Hang on.
destroyed,
On that
yeah.
point though, like laws of physics aren't really a thing like of the universe. Like, it's not like there's this law of physics that. First of all, I think to accept the universe is ordered and there's laws of physics that the world follows. Again, you probably need a god to ground that. Because like
Yeah.
it's an assumption. It's an assumption that water's going to boil at 100 degrees
Yeah.
every time because you don't know the future. You're just guessing. It's probably going to boil at 100 degrees every time.
And the laws of physics, aren't they determined on where we are through time and space? Like,
Yeah.
at the Big Bang, the laws of physics don't apply
Exactly.
fully.
Yeah.
So it's kind of
And
even
quantum physics.
yeah, exactly. Like, our laws of physics are very grounded in where we are and where we're observing, as with everything we do. So it's not objectively true.
It's not objectively true at all times, but I still think that's the most helpful way to look at things.
Yeah.
But think of all the information. Like, let's say all the information is this much, and like the laws. How much information do we have? Like, we've just got a little bit. Like, how long have we humans been around? And how much of the space? How much of space have we explored? Like, how much do we actually know for sure? Like, on the grand scale of things, like I don't think a lot of people say they know that much. I mean, Socrates is famous for saying he's smart because he knows nothing. Like, we don't actually know that much. So like the assumption that laws of physics are like universal and according to our knowledge they're universal, but we don't know all the knowledge there is. Like,
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like we're having this discussion millions of years too early because like you don't have any data based
Yeah.
on how the universe was created. You know what I mean? Like, how much can you actually discuss
Well,
knowing very little?
I mean, this is kind of an assumption, but I don't think we'll ever be able to understand the universe.
yeah,
You
sure.
know, probably not, but
I mean, we definitely won't. Like,
Yeah.
no, but like I can see that. I think always Hume's point on it. Like, the only experience we have is things in the universe, and so based on that, we can never understand something that could create the universe or
Should
why
we-
the
Yeah.
universe exists because we only have experience within the universe.
Should we just go on to someone else's answer to the question?
Go on then.
So-
I had Liebniz. He
Right.
was,
How does Leibniz answer? Why is there something rather than nothing?
he goes with the contingency argument. It's a little bit boring, but he basically says, if you pick up these Michael's headphones, for example, this is a contingent existence. This could not exist, and it's dependent on the creators of these AirPods, or not quite AirPods, to exist. Someone went out of their way to create them
Human pods.
and like charge them up and connect with the circuits, etc. And then those people aren't a necessary existence; they're contingent existence. They're contingent on their parents like having sex, basically. And those people again are contingent on their parents. And then if you follow this chain of causation, like you pick anything that you can see, it's a contingent existence. It must be reliant on something, and that thing must also be contingent. If you think about it, that chain will go back infinitely unless you have like a stopping point, and that stopping point has to be something that doesn't depend on something else to exist. So like you couldn't have like a person because a person depends on another person to exist. You could have something like God that is in necessary existence, like contains the reason for their existence within themselves. That's how some people would word it, and I think that's how Liebniz words it. He says you can't follow this chain of causation and like contingency all the way back, and it can't go on infinitely because then the world will be infinitely like big, and that doesn't make sense with the second law of thermodynamics apparently, and some other reasons. But he then says you must have a necessary existence to stop that chain, and that's God. And yeah, so God must exist, and he created the universe, and that's why there's existence rather than not existence.
Is God like nothing then? Is God both nothing and like everything?
What?
Like, cause what did you answer about like the nothing though? Like,
Why is there something rather than
how did
nothing?
something come from nothing? And he answers that with it was God.
God
So-
has always existed.
Yeah. So
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 nothing
if you
has
say
never
nothing,
existed.
so nothing never existed. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's what he thinks. I think the obvious counter argument to that is that you don't have to have God as the necessary existence that stops the chain. You could just have the universe as a necessary existence. Like, I don't see it being massively.
I don't see how
Are
the
they not one
universe
and the
can.
same then at that point.
Yeah.
So they're just interchangeable in terms of the wording.
What?
Like,
Who's? What?
the universe and God. Like, no matter what, it still has to be some kind of necessary.
Yeah.
No, I
thing.
don't think the universe could ever have necessary existence purely based on the nature of the universe. Like, necessary existence requires unchanging, eternal, and like even just with those two factors, the universe doesn't fit that criteria.
Why not?
But
Because-
like, you're imagining everything within the universe.
Yeah.
But surely the universe as a idea, as a concept, can be without all of the things within it.
I think we've had this discussion before, but like, I don't see how we can separate the things in the universe from the universe. Surely they're one and the same. So if the things inside the universe are changing, then the universe can't be necessary.
Well, like you can just say, well, the Big Bang theory is that matter has always existed. Well, not always existed. Matter started from a tiny single condensed point, like all of matter, which is all of existence. And then matter can change, but matter's always existed. And so, like, why couldn't that all matter, if you put it that way, why couldn't all matter have necessary existence?
But even so, like the matter changes, right? Like it goes through the Big Bang, so it can't have necessary existence. So it must have been. It can't have just like
Why not?
always existed. If it's changing, okay, this is quite hard to explain. But
Like the actual like an actual oxygen atom doesn't like it's like the little at some point the matter becomes like unsplittable. What's the word? Indivisible, right? That's what like the Greeks run about. Eventually matter becomes indivisible because otherwise like it creates some paradox. I don't know the
infinite.
paradox, you know.
It's
Yeah, but you can't have it
chain,
infinitely splittable.
Mm.
And so if you just imagine it as all these tiny things, those have always existed and they just interact with each other in different ways, and that's why you would perceive it as change, but they're not really changing, they're just staying as they are, and those have always existed. Because like you can say all this matter has necessary existence. You don't get more matter and you don't get less matter because you can't create or destroy matter. It's always stayed the same amount of what it is, like the same like average charge, same average like mass, all this. It's just it interacts in a different way, and that's what we observe, and so we would call that change. But like ultimately the actual like tiny particles aren't changing, and so I don't see why it would be a contradiction.
even if you had like an eternal being, I would say that it stops having necessary existence even if it just changes form, because just to change form without actually like with the matter in the universe, would you agree it's just changing form then?
Not quite. Like it's not like let's say a quark, and let's just reduce it down to a quark. Like a quark doesn't change form; it stays as a quark the whole time. And you've got like infinitely many of these quarks moving around. If you were to observe a single quark from, let's assume, Big Bang theory, from the Big Bang to now, the quark wouldn't change shape or size or mass. It would stay as a quark
the individual
whole time.
elements are the same, but I'm saying like the arrangement of all the different particles is changing.
Why does that matter?
Because if the arrangement changes, that means the form, like the overall form changes, which means
I don't see what's wrong with that.
Yeah.
if the form like changes position, that implies like, I feel like to me that just implies it's not necessary, because
Then would you say God is necessary? Or could God be a necessary existence, and could God change? Like,
yeah, I would say God is necessary.
Does
could
that
God
mean-
change?
No, I mean I don't know how to answer that. It's not like I've witnessed God changing.
But like I think like that ultimately God doesn't change. Ultimately the quarks don't change, but we would see it as like the form moving around. Like what if God chose to come down to Earth as man, for example? Like is that not similar to all these quarks moving around in a different way? I feel like with your just like definition of necessary existence, then nothing can ever have necessary existence other than like some Aristotle prime mover that just like sits there doing nothing all day.
Yeah.
But then I don't know how that would create the universe.
Does it not require God to essentially be like a spark, a single moment of bringing nothing into existence, and then can never exist again?
Yeah.
Because then it's going to change, even in some way, in terms of space or time. Like God is essentially a moment.
Yeah.
And is God then not just the universe, the start of the universe? To say,
I
you
mean,
know.
So yeah, I guess that's another criticism of the continuity argument. You can't say the necessary existence must be a God. There's a million things it could be.
Yeah.
You're just attributing that to God. It's a God of the gaps argument, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
Liebniz's other point though was like, it's not really related to the question that much, but he was basically saying the reason God must have created the most good universe, and so this is the best possible world that he could have created.
Oh yeah.
And we are in the best
Yeah.
possible world right now because he's limited by him being all good and all loving and all powerful and all knowing. He knows what the best universe is. He's a bit able to make it. He wants to make it the most loving, and he's all good, and so he has no choice but to make it. That's kind of what he says. I'm not sure what I think about that, but
I really struggle to see that because who's to say we are in the best existence?
Yeah, exactly.
We're in the only existence that we can know, comprehend, and understand. So of course we're going to go, this is the only one that can happen. And
Yeah.
it's the best of all of them. But we can't compare it to anything. There's no control group for what does
Yeah.
a bad universe look
Yeah.
like.
yeah.
You know?
But also, I think so. Plantinga did something interesting on this. He was like, he doesn't agree with Leibniz that we're in the best possible universe, and he kind of like, if you imagine it from God's point of view, it's like you have all these universes you can create, possible worlds, and like it's not possible for you to create the best one, just as it is not possible for me to pick the biggest number. So like I couldn't
Yeah,
pick
yeah.
the biggest number. I can just pick a pretty big one.
So there's always
Yeah.
something,
But there's always going to be a big
something
number, and so I couldn't create that from God's point of view. I can't create the best possible universe because it's logically impossible. I can just create a pretty good one.
So is it saying that there's infinite universes and there's
So that's what Plantinga said. I think that's not a bad response.
can there not be logically a best universe, or like in the same way that you could, I guess you can't get to the biggest number, can you?
No.
So like you can't. Yeah.
So I can see that argument.
Should we go to your one then?
There's not
Okay, Hume.
loads on mine because, like I said, it was overnight. But Hume, from what I know of Hume, is fairly in relation to Liebniz, so kind of opposing ideas. One of which was that if you can imagine the universe not existing, it's like, what's the word? It's not contradictory to imagine the universe not existing. So
Yeah.
it is contingent, or isn't that?
Like necessary existence isn't a thing, but
Yeah.
you can imagine
It's
the
not
universe
logically
existing.
guaranteed.
What was
Yeah.
that phrase again?
Nothing is demonstrable unless the contrary implies a contradiction.
Yeah, there we go.
I said that a bit louder. For
Nothing is.
Nothing is demonstrable unless the contrary implies a contradiction. Nothing is demonstratable unless
Oh.
the contrary of that implies a logical contradiction. For example, like you can demonstrate that a triangle has 3 sides because a triangle couldn't have 4 sides. Because the contrary of a triangle having 3 sides is a triangle that doesn't have 3 sides, which isn't a triangle, and it's a contradiction. So you
Yeah.
can demonstrate that a triangle has 3 sides.
But that's only true for like sort of necessary truths.
A priori truths.
A priori truths. So like this chair, for example,
What about it?
like it wouldn't fit into that criteria because I could imagine a world where this chair doesn't exist. So the chair existing is not a necessary truth,
I think
and it's not demonstrable.
in a way, he uses that to say that God can't have necessary existence as well, because he says you can imagine a universe that doesn't have a God, and so it's possible that there's a universe without a God.
But can you though?
That's what I was about to say. It's a good question. Do you think that Hume saying you can imagine a universe without God is arrogant because he doesn't, like as a human, a finite human, he doesn't have a proper like
Understanding.
good understanding
Yeah.
of this infinite God, and so he can't fully imagine the universe without God. And the reason he thinks he can is because he doesn't really understand God.
But is
Yeah,
that
no,
not
I'll-
just as
yeah.
arrogant as imagining that you have to have a God in the universe?
Yeah.
Like ultimately you don't know.
Yeah.
So it's equally as an assumption that you're basing it off.
Yeah.
I don't think. Yeah, no, I would agree, but then I guess it just leaves us in a sort of middle way.
Yeah, that is your problem.
The most.
Yeah. Okay. So overall,
I hate Heidegger. For,
Yeah, I back
for
that
one.
as well.
I think Parmenides is all right. Like, if you can accept his view of the world being like fake appearances, then I guess it makes sense that, you know, nothingness can't exist. But ultimately, it's not helpful to think about the world that way.
Yeah, I liked Parmenides' view on nothingness. I thought it's fairly logical. But I don't know, I didn't really like any of them, to be honest. I think they all got a bit wrong.
I think they all point to showing that really it's a very unanswerable question.
Yeah.
In like in
Yeah.
a lot of ways.
Yeah.
You can only, you're kind of creating your own rules for what needs to happen, but it's still all based massively on assumption. I think
Yeah, I
that's
back that.
difficulty.
Daniel,
I still just hate Heidegger really.
anything else to add?
Well, I just agree with everything else really. I encapsulated all my thoughts
That's great.
It's great.
in one.
Thanks for watching,
Right,
guys.
guys. Like, comment, subscribe.
Rupert, give us suggestions on
Yeah. Suggestions in the comments of what you want to see. If there's anyone else, you know, watching this video who wants to be a special guest, just you know,
Just
hit me a little DM. You know, we can get you on.
See you guys next episode.
See you guys next time. This has been Students and Skeptics.
Bye.